Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in a Zone 5B in mid-Michigan, and we are having a lovely day today. We actually got quite a bit of rain yesterday, and then today the sun just came out and it warmed up, and it's just been an amazing summer day. There's definitely been a lot of humidity, but I think the garden has really appreciated this extra bit of water from the sky, and it's just thriving. So join me today as we walk about and take a tour of the midsummer garden. I mean, we're really right in the heart of summer right now. So let's take a look at all of the things that are blooming. So today I thought we would start off with the porch right here and show you how these geraniums are doing. These are some scented geraniums that I have planted in these nice little concrete planters. And then just a quick update to show you how this planter is coming along. Remember, we planted some calibrachoa and some petunias. And the calibrachoa are putting on some more growth, and the petunias are putting on some more blooms, and we have the alyssum just starting to really put out some blooms as well. So that's looking great. And everything has just really greened up again. Not that it wasn't green before, but you can just tell the intense depth of the green that comes out after the rain. It really does make a big difference. I have come through this garden bed and I have trimmed back my salvia for the second time. So they're going to be working on putting out their third flush of new growth, and you can actually see some of the new buds starting to come out already. So along here we have the crystal blue salvia, and we have some of the, oh gosh, what is it called? Azure Snow. This is the Azure Snow. It has both purple and white on its blooms. And that just sits right in front of the gorgeous hydrangeas here. And I did have somebody ask me a little bit about what is this evergreen shrub with the balls, and this is a basic arborvitae. So I had an arborvitae tree here that was really starting to outgrow its space, and I wanted to be able to see the fountain from the deck. So I needed to open it up in the center. So I thought rather than cut it down, I'll try and see how it does in terms of being shaped into some type of topiary. And we did that 2 years ago, and it has been fantastic ever since. I definitely need to give it a little bit of a trim now, but it definitely looks beautiful. We did a ball up top, and then we did one down below, and it has really filled in over the last couple of years. We're finally starting to get some blooms on our butterfly bushes, and I've seen more butterflies out and about this week as the temperatures have warmed up and more flowers are coming into bloom. You can see I have the hose out. We've been working in the pool, but otherwise I just wanted to show you these planters because I feel like they have done a really great job of filling in. So we have some gorgeous dark purple sweet potato vines at the base, along with some royal magenta petunias, and then the limelights. They are really almost fully open now. We have a few blooms that are still working on opening, but I think they're looking gorgeous. And the strawberry Sunday hydrangea that is back behind the fountain is amazing. It's very upright this year. I don't have very much floppy growth on it at all. Which, you know, some years I definitely get that, and it's usually when we have more of a wet spring. And this year we had that early drought, so I think that kind of slowed down the growth of it just enough so that it's putting on some really big blooms, but it's also got really sturdy stems this year that'll help hold those up if we get a big rainstorm. And no flopping from the storm we got yesterday, which really just, the sky just opened up. It was crazy. We have liriope that is variegated at the base of both of these planter beds, and that's looking really nice. It's finally starting to kind of fill in and look more robust and actually light up the space by the garden rocks. And I'm really happy with that. It has taken quite a few years. I've divided them over time so that I didn't have to buy a ton of them, but that has definitely begun to make an impact. I am loving this planter, you guys. I think I've pointed it out to you before, but this is a real simple planter, just some Angelina sedum and then the PG hydrangea. You can see it's already turning pink. Isn't that amazing? And over here on this side, the daylilies are continuing to bloom and they have a wonderful fresh scent. And then I've been really happy to see just how much this berry white hydrangea has flushed out. I'm going to be continue to trim this one up as more of a tree form. I want it to get some additional height, so it should get really close to coming up to just underneath of the roof line there eventually, and it should help to cover up kind of our, I'm not sure if that's our electrical or our water meter back there, but that's kind of the goal there, to cover up that downspout and the meter. And I think it's going to do a great job at that. And we're starting to get some allium blooms all around the garden with these millennium alliums. And boy, are the pollinators loving it. I tell you what, they are everywhere this week, from the butterflies to the bees to the hoverflies to all the little sweat bees. Everything is just out and about these days. We have a little bit of fresh new growth on this. This is a forsythia. I believe it's the show-off starlet. This one stays only 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, so it shouldn't get a whole lot bigger, but it should be easy to maintain at this size over time. We're finally starting to get some blooms on this strawberry hydrangea back here. It's much slower because it gets a bit more shade, and it also is right at the base of 2 arborvitaes from my neighbor's garden, as well as one giant one in my own garden. So with those sucking up some of the water and being more in part sun than full sun, it has definitely grown much slower and bloomed much slower than some of the other ones in my garden. We have more blooms on this rose marble salvia here that looks so pretty. This border right now has just come alive with summer color. It's just gorgeous, the pinks and the blues. We have the blue lobelia in the garden basket hanging up against the wall, and then all of those millennium allium along the border with that rose marble salvia. And here you can see this quick fire. It's looking amazing right now. It is definitely fully open. There are a few buds that you can see here and there that still are yet to come, so we're not at maximum bloom yet, but definitely very close. And we're starting to get that nice, beautiful pink tinge. We have some buds happening on this gorgeous sedum right now. And I'm even seeing some new growth pop up on the Let's Dance Can Do hydrangea over here. And we're starting to get the blooms on the Verbena bonariensis that we grew from cuttings. So that's thrilling. And you guys, the limelight hydrangea has really taken to this spot. I've been super pleased with how it has done so far. After we planted it, we had some really hot weather, but it has just taken to its new area. So as we walk down this way, the strawberry Sunday hydrangea definitely also catches the eye. And this time of year is one of my favorites, with all of the panicle hydrangeas being fully open. We're definitely just getting to enjoy that really fluffy cloud-like appearance. I've been really happy with the way this Pure Joy sedum has handled itself throughout the really harsh heat and sun this season. Not as happy with the blue spruce sedum, which is next to it. It looks kind of rangy after it bloomed. So I may be replacing some of that with this low growing Pure Joy sedum, because it does bring that blue color to the border, but it also just continues to look good pretty much all season. The Rudbeckia just is continuing to bloom. That's something that you can always count on in the summer garden for color. And the Heuchera just is a wonderful supporting actor in that role. The viburnum is still looking good. I actually did a root drench of it with a systemic insecticide recently because I noticed some viburnum beetles on it, and I really don't want it to get decimated the way the 2 are that we had to take out this spring. But you'll also see back behind it we have that Samurai, this is the lungwort that is like all silver leaved, and that's doing really well and filling in great. We just planted those last year, so I've been really happy with how those have performed so far. And just looking back at this border is so pretty right now. I just love that view. I cannot believe the immense amount of growth that we're getting on this Eden climbing rose back here. Can you see all of that strong new growth happening? And then for the first time since I've planted it, I'm actually seeing that we're going to get some rebloom on it. So that is exciting, you guys. We have not had a second flush of blooms on this rose since planting. This is its 4th year. So I think it's just really finally getting its roots established, and it can be hard to be patient while those things happen, but it's definitely well worth the wait. The heucheras that we kind of tucked in together over here are looking really good. And the 9-bark is finally starting to show signs of new growth. So I think next year that one's really going to take off and fill in that space underneath of the rose. That's going to be a beautiful contrast with the light pink flowers of the Eden rose. We've got lots of buds that are filling out on this butterfly bush yet. Still not in full bloom, but we really haven't had the heat yet. We're supposed to get in the mid-90s tomorrow, so I think, again, more of those summer heat-loving perennials are going to burst into bloom soon. This Roseanne geranium is just continuing to flourish amongst all of the other plants here, just dipping and nodding its beautiful flowers all throughout. And you can see how lovely that looks up against the firelight and in amongst them. Oh my gosh, you guys. I don't know if I was able to capture it. There was a hummingbird. I don't know if I got it fast enough. I was trying to move slow and also fast at the same time, if that's at all possible. I love how much he's been coming to visit the garden lately. Now down here we have the sound of my heart daylilies, and they're looking really wonderful. We're finally starting to get something that feels like a more robust amount of blooms so that they're more showy and a nice grouping. So that's great. I didn't think I was going to get any blooms on this limelight this year because oftentimes hydrangeas take a couple years to really establish themselves, but this one is definitely showing signs of buds already, and we just planted it last fall, so that's really exciting. Now one of my favorite daylilies here is this beautiful deep colored storm shelter daylily, which is looking really lovely right now. So I'm enjoying this kind of run of daylilies along the front of this border. Now as we enter the woodland garden over here, you can see just how much this redbud has filled out this year. It's really becoming a small tree and beginning to provide some good shade in addition to the trees that are back behind it. So I think that's really going to help with some of the other plants that are in the area that require more shade and that get kind of stressed in the very heat of the summer back here. The purple leaf plum tree that's behind it is also doing really well, so those two are combining nicely to create a little bit more shade in the shade garden back here. I can actually tell that as we gave this fothergilla a little bit more space, I don't know if you can tell, but it's starting to grow forward. The branches are starting to relax and lean towards the boxwood. So now that we've removed some of the extra plantings in there and given it space, it's really enjoying it. I have some apples along this way that I need to harvest. Take a look at what is going on in the apple tree. It's pretty amazing. We've got bags on some of them to protect them from the rabbit and the groundhog that enjoy browsing in my garden. But we're going to pick those pretty soon. And then over here, I'm also really enjoying this firelight hydrangea. This one is much further along than the other one in the garden because it gets, a little bit more sun. And it's just in a different position, and it looks beautiful up against this purple salvia, which is the April night salvia. This whole garden bed has been a great performer this year, and I've really enjoyed the alyssum right along the edge of the border as well. We're just starting to get some blooms on some of the Laura phlox in the garden bed back here. You see these bright pink blooms. But lots and lots of blooms on the heucheras right now, and the pollinators just love them. It's so fun to watch the giant bumblebees hanging on the itty bitty tiny flowers, trying to get the littlest sips of nectar. All in all, I think things are looking rather good and healthy back here, especially after we've gotten this lovely rain. Even this little hottie hydrangea appears to be putting on some new growth, and hopefully we'll be getting some blooms on that one soon. You can tell that the rain gave these hydrangeas just a boost to really open up its gorgeous blooms. And even more growth is happening on these Japanese tassel ferns, so really filling in lovely. And I'm excited to report that we have blooms on Grandma's Blessing Rose. We didn't get the initial first flush of them this year because of the drought, but boy, are they beautiful. I really love the color of these. They're like a super bright pink, but yeah, it has different depths of color within it, so I really enjoyed that one. And this little hottie hydrangea is beginning to show its buds, so I do know for sure this one is going to get some blooms. And then you can see along the front edge of this garden bed we are getting some phlox. So those are the Laura phlox, and the David phlox are the white ones. And we're starting to get some limey color on the oak leaf hydrangeas. So they're kind of starting to go over and ease into their next phase of color, which is beautiful as well. I do have a baby bunny that continues to go through the garden, and the thing about baby bunnies is they're really cute, but they don't know yet what they don't like to eat. So they have to take tastes of just about everything. So for instance, they kind of come through and they chip away at something like this and then they leave the stems because they decide, well, I'm not sure I like that much. These Brunneras look amazing, you guys. These are the Jack of Diamonds variety. They're just doing fantastic. And these lungworts just continue to fill in, doing great, putting on more growth from last week. And this oak leaf hydrangea is looking beautiful too. Then we have our striptease hostas that are along this border, along with the plum pudding heucheras and that ripple Virginia. That one is so pretty, isn't it? What a fun addition to the garden bed. And there's just tucked along in these ferns, we have that tiarella, the pink fizz, and we're still getting some of those blooms. I love this pink fizz tiarella. It's one of my favorites. The color of the leaves along with the color of the blooms are just fantastic, and they go so well with these Japanese ferns. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I have appreciated the fact that we haven't had many mosquitoes because of the drought. But with the last few weeks of us actually getting rain in midsummer instead of in spring, it's been kind of crazy. We are now starting to get mosquitoes. And they are not my favorite animal. I'd rather have baby bunnies coming and nipping at my plants than have mosquitoes in the garden. This Japanese maple here is really filling out. And this one is just, I believe this one was called Garnet. That's just the name. It's a pretty simple name. And the Pinky Winky hydrangea here is finally starting to open. This is one of the later ones to bloom, along with the limelight and the little lime. but it's definitely coming along now. You can see that color really peeking through. Speaking of bunnies, there he goes. That's my baby bunny. He is definitely a resident. I have to train him better though. So here we have the David white phlox. Isn't that gorgeous? And we have some of the cloudburst phlox showing a second bloom right now. I did clip those back, and with a little bit of water, they are popping through with those beautiful pink blooms. And they look amazing with the little pincushion flowers. That little bunny, he's just running around. Sometimes I swear he just looks at me like, yep, this is my garden. Can you see him back there? See, he's like, whatever. Here we go. Seriously, bunny. It really is my garden, I swear. The sum and substance hostas have gotten really, really large. That's these bright green ones. And they are bred to be that way. I love them. They are a fantastic pop of color in the shade garden. And these, you know, blue angel or humpback whale hostas that are the blue ones, they get so, so huge. They are just some of the biggest hostas that you can get. See what I mean? He's not even afraid. He's just like, hello, I'm gonna eat that. Silly rabbit. I do love gardening with wildlife though. I love watching them, and as long as they don't do too much damage, they can share the garden with me. That's part of the whole point of it. These baskets right here are looking great. I have definitely enjoyed them. I've definitely had to come through and cut back some of that purple Prince Alternathia that is in there, the foliage plant, but they're doing great. They have held their own. I love the colors right along here also. Also, so many different things to look at when you just kind of look at some of the details and the different textures and colors. I highly recommend this Fireside 9 bark. It's beautiful. Now a lot of my hydrangeas are starting to turn that limey color, and I'm thinking about trimming some of them so that we can see if they might put out some fresh new blooms. You know, they do bloom on new wood, so that's always something that can be fun to try. This is a Strawberry Sunday hydrangea right here, and it's still working on its blooms in comparison to the one that I showed you in the sun border that faces the west. This one faces the east, and it gets some shade all throughout the afternoon. So definitely a little bit behind. Well, heading over to the Half Moon garden, I think this one is looking really good. I've enjoyed pretty much my full harvest of blueberries that I think I'm going to get this year. The Wizard of Oz Veronica is putting on some additional blooms at this point, which is beautiful with this burgundy glow ajuga, because as it puts on its new growth, it's showing that really nice color echo with the Veronica. And obviously the bees love it. The bunny is just mocking me. Right here we have some beautiful Rose of Sharon, and it is really, really starting to put its blooms out. I'm actually seeing a few Japanese beetles on it, and I have seen a few on some roses and a few on this hibiscus, but I'm just picking them off and crushing them when I see them. And the bloom that is getting the closest to opening is right here. So hopefully we'll be seeing some soon. It won't be long. It won't be long. So the smoke bush that is over here that I cut back has come back to life and is showing some beautiful foliage. And the salvia is reblooming over here. So we have some nice color in the front of this garden bed. And hopefully within the next year we'll have some height there as well. And this pathway is lined with the Virginia as well as some heuchera. Just kind of repeating some of the different things that I have throughout the garden, like the David phlox. And the David phlox has a really nice scent, you guys. Some of these more old-fashioned phlox, they're no slouches. They definitely perform really well in the fall garden. And the David phlox is really not prone to powdery mildew, so I highly recommend that one. We're working on some new blooms on these snapdragons and getting lots of basil. This is a new kind of basil that doesn't actually flower. Something like forever basil, I think. And here we have a beautiful strawberry Sunday hydrangea that has really put on some great growth this year. Beautiful, beautiful. And these two shrubs are really going to help to provide a little bit of shade against this south-facing brick wall. Just kind of help protect us from some of that heat. I see something has gotten one of my tomatoes down here, unfortunately. But we have lots of green tomatoes that are looking like they are getting close to turning colors, and tons of the little baby cherry tomatoes. So hopefully we'll get some of those soon. I love a good garden tomato with some salt on it, eaten fresh from the garden. This Pinky Winky hydrangea is continuing to open up and looks beautiful. And I think this garden looks lovely now. There's not a ton of blooms in it, but the different colors of the foliage in here are so important to providing the interest and the beauty with the lady statue here. I mean, all we have right now flowering is the daisy, but just look at what you can see in terms of the forms and texture and colors of the foliage. It took me a long time to learn about the importance of foliage. It really can make or break a garden sometimes. This spirea has stood the test of time on the west side of the house during the heat of summer so far, so I think it's going to just stay in this position. It's really taken to it. And our heleniums are about to open. You can see they're starting to put on some color. And our little quick fire hydrangea is definitely starting to show some better signs of life back here. It might make it this year after all. We will see. If it doesn't, well, I'll be looking on those clearance shelves this fall for something to replace it with. Now, we planted these hypericum and they are putting on lots of little new buds, so I think they are happy in their new space. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how those will perform now that they are in the ground and out of their cans. Lots of blooms over here on our golden tiara hostas. So it looks really pretty and lush and full. And this little bed right here is nothing to sneeze at either. It has this beautiful sage. This is a variegated sage and it is a perennial, so I'll be leaving it in the ground to see if it will overwinter. It does in the, normal garden. I've not tried it in a raised bed before, but it should do fine. And this Verbena bonariensis is just going to town. We have had nonstop blooms on this, along with that beautiful lobelia. Definitely has brought a lot of light and color to this space. The foliage continues to look healthy in this garden bed, and I'm starting to see the blooms open up on this PG hydrangea that we planted at the end. Just getting a little bit more color on that one. Slowly but surely, that one is brand new. And of course, our beautiful new Weigela over here. It is just pushing the blooms out since we planted it. So let's take a look at how that's doing in our gorgeous new garden bed. You can see how the blooms just are all over that already, and there's still buds that are yet to open up. And even though that's out there kind of alone as an island, it has not been bothered by the deer at this point. Of course, I do spray, but everything's in need of spraying again at this point. So that heavy rain just kind of washes it all off. I do need to come through and deadhead these daisies. They're not looking so good right now. We've got quite a few blooms that have gone over, but exciting is the bobo hydrangeas back there are starting to bloom. So even when we take these daisies back, we're still going to continue to get some beautiful color. And they really do light up this garden bed. So this Veronica has bloomed almost for a month straight. This is the Ever After variety. And I think that's pretty good for a Veronica. So I may need to come through and just kind of deadhead that and give it a chance to start putting on some new blooms. Everything's looking really healthy in this garden bed. The colors are mingling together nicely. I do have a little bit of a foliage disease on these irises, so we'll see how they fare. I really should kind of just clean up the diseased foliage, get rid of it so it doesn't spread. The boxwoods have appreciated the extra water, and I did come through and kind of trim them up at the base away from the ground so they get a little bit better air circulation, and they seem to have perked up a bit since doing that as well. Sometimes they just need a little rejuvenation pruning. This is a favorite scene right now for me, with all of the blooms in pink and purple and white, and of course the bobo hydrangea, which really steals the show right now. But it's lovely because the oak leaf hydrangea, you know, you get the beauty of that from both sides of this garden bed, so I can see it from both inside the house as well as from the street view. I do think it's really important to, you know, have consideration for what you can see out the windows of your house when you're designing the garden, because, you know, we're not outside all the time. Sometimes we're inside and we want to have a nice view out the window. All right, well, let's head on up to the shade garden and take a look at how the hostas are doing, because they certainly have appreciated the extra rain this week. I mean, hostas really do a great job of just sticking around pretty much all spring, summer, and fall. But when they get the water, they really perk up. And that can be the key towards adding quite a bit of additional growth onto your hostas. The Pieris is looking great back there, the one that we just planted. No problems at all. I think it helped that we had the rain pretty quickly after we came through and planted. I did come through and cut back the Monarda, so those flowers were pretty well spent. They were showing some signs of starting to develop a little bit of powdery mildew, so that's when I know it's time to really, you know, give them a good cut back. I'm still really excited about how this turned out with the Firelight hydrangea here. I think that's going to make a really nice addition to this garden bed as it, you know, kind of adds the height in this corner. That's definitely a lot further along, though. It's already kind of turning from its pink blooms to its kind of pale limey green blooms, and then it will turn to that kind of parchment color. And these hydrangeas have done really well in their spot so far this year, so we're just going to keep cheering them on in this corner. We have a little bit of browning on some of the flowers, but I think some of that is just due to the fact that their roots are not all that well established because, you know, we just planted them this year. All right, well, our mailbox garden bed is doing fantastic. We have lots and lots of coneflowers out here. We even have a couple of redbud seedlings that we're gonna have to pull out. I definitely get those planted by the animals. We have a redbud from my neighbor, and that's how I actually got the trees in my backyard. Is I took some of the volunteers from her tree that landed in my yard and just grew them on. So a wonderful way to get free plants. I'm starting to get some free tulip trees in my way back because I think the tulip tree that my neighbors in the way back have might be nearing the end of its life cycle. So this garden bed is looking really nice right now. It's really filling out with some color with the coneflowers. And I just continue to be really happy with having planted the spirea in this place, and I'm so glad that it rained because it really needed that nice drenching soak. The Gara is just going crazy on this end. This is the Gara that we planted last year. And it's having fun playing with the Rudbeckia back here. This is the little gold star Rudbeckia. And there's that pink and yellow looking really awesome together. What a contrast. And this garden bed just continues to be awash in the purple coneflower also. The purple coneflower just blooms and blooms and blooms. It really is a giver in the garden. It doesn't take much water. You do have to come through and deadhead it, but it's great for the gardener, great for the animals. Just such an easy thing to grow. I love the way it looks with the tiny white 9 bark too. I think that's so pretty. And our liatris hedge is probably going to be going over within the next week or so, maybe 2 weeks at the most. But it definitely lasts for a good amount of time, and I've been really enjoying it and the color that it provides for us along this garden bed. Let's check out this PG hydrangea. This PG hydrangea has done so much better this year than it has in the past. Now this is, I want to say this one is its 3rd year in the garden. Look at that beautiful speckling of pink color. Such pretty lacy blooms. It reminds me a lot of the quickfire and the PG hydrangea. They're all on a fairly similar schedule. So this royal fern is looking great. We have it setting its spores right now. So that's what these brown things are. There's nothing wrong with the plant. This is how it propagates itself. And then we have our snowball viburnum right here and our burning bush. And our ice bog rosemary at the base with that gorgeous, gorgeous blue. We'll close this video out with this beautiful strawberry Sunday hydrangea. Aren't these blooms gorgeous? So fluffy. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this tour and walkabout and got to see some flowers blooming. I hope those of you who are in like the triple degrees of heat are starting to get some cooler temperatures coming your way. And I just really appreciate all of you joining me on a regular basis in the garden. It's been great. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.